4.3 billion people live across this vast continent called Asia, and we are telling their stories. On this edition, To the Rescue, groups of volunteers patrol the streets of Bangkok to respond to emergencies. We join them on a mission. On high alert, inside a hospital that treats victims of conflict in Afghanistan. And danger underwater. How divers are helping Cambodia get rid of underwater explosives from the Vietnam War. I'm Martin Lowe, and this is Assignment Asia. Welcome to the program. Here in the Thai capital Bangkok, accidents, crime and other emergencies are a fact of daily life. But without an extensive and efficient government-run ambulance service, volunteer rescuers are usually first on the scene. There are competing groups who race each other to their victims. For this, they've gained the nickname the Body Snatchers. I spent a busy and ultimately tragic night with one of these rescue groups. There's been an accident, and we're amongst the first to arrive. There are cries of pain. It's mid-evening. Two motorbikes have collided head-on. This food delivery man is seriously hurt. The rescue volunteers try to calm him, but he's got broken bones and multiple injuries. As quickly as possible, he's put on a stretcher and taken to hospital.
รถคันนี้รถของฟู้ดแพนด้าค่ะออกมาจากซอยตรงนี้แล้วเขาก็คือไม่ได้ขับมาเร็วแต่เขาไม่ได้ใส่หมวกกันน็อกแล้วรถคันนี้ขับมาเร็วแล้วเหมือนว่ารถเขาเป็นรถใหญ่อ่ะแล้วเขาก็เลยปั้งเข้ามาพอผู้ชายคนนี้ลงมาออกมาจากรถคือเขาก็ช้ากับรถแล้วอ่ะแล้วรถผู้ชายคนนี้ก็คือลุกขึ้นออกมาแล้วก็มาเล่นโทรศัพท์อยู่เลยอ่ะ
With lights flashing and sirens sounding, we fight our way through the congested streets of Bangkok. If you have an accident or illness or fall victim to crime here, you'll have reason to thank these men and women. Thailand has no state-run ambulance service, so the job of scooping up the dead and injured falls to volunteers.
หน่วยกู้ชีพปอเต็กตึงนี่นะก็คือว่าลักษณะเหมือนกันกับทั่วไปที่ว่าออกช่วยเหลือคนเจ็บคนป่วยณจุดเกิดเหตุนะฮะแล้วก็ประชาชนที่ไม่สามารถที่จะช่วยเหลือตัวเองได้ในการรักษาที่จะนำญาติไปโรงพยาบาลตามแพทย์นัด
The volunteer groups have a somewhat dark past and a grim nickname, the Body Snatchers, evolved over the past 7 decades due to intense competition between different groups. Rival organizations have been known to fight each other over bodies, in some cases allegedly stripping them of any cash or riches they held. There are also claims hospitals have paid money for patients delivered alive, so they can earn lucrative treatment fees from relatives. To end the fighting, each organization now has a designated area, but no one can guarantee bad things never happen.
ในอดีตอย่างสมัยช่วงที่ผ่านมานะในอดีตก็นานมากเอาลักษณะแบบนั้นนะคือตรงนี้อาจจะเป็นไปได้ในลักษณะที่ว่าทางเจ้าหน้าที่เนี่ยลักษณะแบบนี้ทางเจ้าหน้าที่ของเราเนี่ยจะไม่มีเลยนะครับเพราะว่ากฎระเบียบวินัยทางของมูลนิธิเนี่ยของคิดว่าเหมือนกันกับทุกที่นะฮะจะต้องมีกฎมีระเบียบแต่ในส่วนของเรื่องอาสาสมัครหรือว่าคนที่ว่าลักษณะแบบรูปแบบแอบแฝงฉันเอาเสื้อมาใส่ตัวหนึ่งฉันก็เป็นมูลนิธิได้แล้วอะไรประมาณนั้น
This is Potek Tung, one of 2 rescue organizations now safeguarding Thailand's capital. They receive no government grant, and all funding comes from donations, though the volunteers themselves bear much of the cost. They trace their origins to Chinese merchants who arrived in Thailand more than a century ago. The merchants collected the bodies of the poor when no one else cared. Later, they began to transport the sick to hospital, and the service was born. Today, there's a core of paid staff with a starting salary of $150 a month. But volunteers still do most of the work. Parked across the city at gas stations, intersections and under bridges, vans and pickup trucks make basic ambulances. Such is their enthusiasm that many volunteers, like Tirasak, pay for their vehicles out of their own pockets. By day, he works for a company selling gas to industry. By night, he's here with his volunteer crew, an office worker, a motorcycle messenger and a university student.
การทำบุญเนี่ยมันหลายช่องทางสำหรับคนไทยแต่สำหรับความคิดของผมอันนี้ต้องบอกก่อนนะคือความคิดผมก็คือเรามาทำอย่างนี้อาจจะได้บุญที่ตรงกว่า
The volunteers start with just a few hours of basic training, but more than make up for it in commitment. Despite their lack of detailed medical knowledge, no one can remember a case of anyone being sued. Here, people are just happy that someone is willing to help. For many volunteers, the biggest challenge is coping with a fear of ghosts, which is very common here in Thailand. Touching a dead body can be a big problem for some people. Many wear amulets and Buddhist symbols in the hope they'll keep them safe.
กลัวค่ะแต่ก็รู้ว่าเขาแบบตายอ่ะเขาเราไม่ได้ไปทำอะไรร้ายใส่เขาเราไปช่วยเขาก็เลยแบบโอเคข่มอารมณ์ได้หน่อยไม่ได้แบบเพราะเรารู้ตัวเองว่าเราทำอะไรอยู่
This time the call is to a city centre hotel. A guest is in distress with chest pains. The arrival of the volunteers brings relief and a speedy trip to hospital. It's quickly followed by a taxi crash with only minor injury. A hoax call. This city is plagued by almost 200 every day. And yet another motorcycle mishap.
It's now midnight, so why do they do it? They'll say volunteering brings good karma and gives them a happy life. But there's no doubt there's also an adrenaline rush. Lights and sirens driving fast, saving lives.
People can call the rescuers direct, but more often they learn about incidents by monitoring police radio. When something happens, they leap into their vehicles and race to the scene.
ไม่เป็นคนไม่กลัวเลือดเนี่ยค่ะก็เลยแบบรู้สึกเฉยๆแต่ที่ถ้ารับไม่ได้คือลำไส้ออกมาอย่างเงี้ยข้างในก็คืออันนั้นรับไม่ได้แต่แค่เห็นเลือดโอเคได้เดินออกเพราะว่ายังไม่พร้อมเหมือนกันเพราะตอนนั้นที่เห็นครั้งแรกคือยังไม่พร้อม
It's raining now. The rescuers know that means they'll be busy. At just after 3 a.m. there's another accident. This time it's really serious. We arrive to find a life ebbing away. Volunteers immediately begin giving CPR to an unconscious man in the road. Then the full horror emerges. He'd stopped his car on an elevated highway to assist a broken down vehicle. A taxi then crashed into both cars, hurling the man through the air and onto this road 15 meters below. He has massive head injuries and isn't breathing. After the collision, the taxi driver fled on foot.
There's now a large number of volunteers here, and they're being supported by an emergency ambulance from a nearby hospital. They're desperately trying to keep the man alive, but it doesn't look good.
The man on the ground is 29 and has a 7-month-old baby. For almost an hour, they struggle to restart his heart. But in the end, the battle is lost.
โดยปกติแล้วถ้าเป็นการในการช่วยเหลือถ้าเราช่วยอย่างสุดความสามารถของทีมงานกู้ภัยของกู้ชีพของมูลนิธิวาริกตึงแล้วเนี่ยแล้วที่จะไม่สามารถที่จะยื้อชีวิตของคนเจ็บอันนั้นได้นี่เราก็มีความรู้สึกเสียใจนะที่ว่าเราให้ความช่วยเหลือเขาอย่างเต็มที่แล้วแต่ยังไม่สามารถที่เขาจะช่วยชีวิตเขาได้อะรู้สึกเสียใจด้วยกับญาติเขาด้วยนะตอนนี้ครับ
The man's wife is brought to the scene. All she can do is hold his hand and say goodbye.
It's been a long night. Lives have been saved, but also tragically, lives have been lost. It'll soon be time for the day shift to take over. But tonight, these volunteers will be back to do it all again.
The body is wrapped in cloth and taken away for examination. It's a violent end for a man who stopped to help a stranger, and deep frustration for the volunteer rescue crews who tried so hard to save him.
The volunteers are the front line of Bangkok's emergency response, and no one doubts this city needs them. When we come back, we go inside a hospital in Afghanistan, where victims of conflict run for help. One of the casualties of decades of war in Afghanistan is its healthcare system. But a hospital in the country's capital has risen above the strife, providing treatment and care, especially to people injured in conflict. In Kabul, Natalie Carney visited Emergency Hospital, where lives are being saved and miracles performed.
It's not easy to see a child suffering, but in strife-torn Afghanistan, it's a reality. This is 9-year-old Ahmadullah. He was shot through the head in the volatile province of Ghazni. Doctors aren't sure he's going to make it.
Unfortunately, Ahmadullah admitted 1 day ago during the night. It was bullet injury into the head, very, very bad injury. I mean, bullet through the brain directly.
He arrived severely disabled and was immediately rushed to the operating table.
What's the worst case scenario if he makes it through? Will he have brain damage?
For sure. For sure, brain damage. He cannot be completely fine as he was. We are fighting to survive with a deficit for sure. But how much deficit, you never can know. The quality of life and the way of life will be the different and the change.
The need for dedicated trauma care has never been so critical as healthcare joins the long list of casualties in conflict-ridden Afghanistan. State-run facilities struggle to supply even basic medical attention as insecurity and limited resources challenge the system. Private clinics are now being closed down for providing substandard care, and hospitals run by NGOs have also been targeted in the ongoing violence. Yet emergency hospitals, run by an Italian NGO, have managed to beat the odds. Their Kabul hospital has never been busier. Every day, patients arrive from everywhere.
From Ghazni, from Tagab, from all the place around Kabul.
With every kind of war injury.
Injured due to bullet, due to shrapnel after explosion, due to direct impact with the landmines or direct explosion. And we include also the stab injury, because one is a violence act that could be connected with the instability of the situation around.
Local Afghan surgeon Mir Abdulazim has been working here since 2003, but he's been coming here for much longer.
When I came to start working as a nurse, the international nurse he came and he wanted to show me the rooms, the wards, this part. I told him I'm used in this hospital. He told, you have been working here? No, I told him when I was a child, this place was kindergarten for the children, and I was here.
After a rocket killed 5 of his classmates, the ground sat empty for many years, until the Taliban occupied Kabul in 2001. Emergency entered Afghanistan in 1999 during the country's destructive civil war and established their first hospital in the northeastern province of Panjshir, which at the time was controlled by the Northern Alliance, a military front that fought the Taliban.
We immediately realized that if you want to be neutral, you need to offer the same service to all the actors involved in the conflict. After the establishment of the first hospital, we crossed the front line and we came here during the Taliban regime, and we proposed the same offer we did to the North Alliance.
The Taliban agreed and donated the land to them. Since then, they have never interrupted Emergency's work.
Emergency is a vital lifeline to the Afghan people and their communities. The majority of NGOs who work in this country must do so with substantial security. Yet here, they rely on the good work they do to protect them from becoming patients themselves.
Emergency prides itself on being completely neutral, only asking patients questions related to their injury. They offer a high level of care at absolutely no cost.
If is my brother, if my family, or if these people are Taliban or soldiers, for us, all of them the same. We are going to deal with all of them at the same levels.
To be admitted, a patient has to be a victim of Afghanistan's unrelenting war. When fighting worsened in the south, Emergency opened their third hospital in Helmand province. Emergency also runs dozens of smaller first aid posts in some of the most remote and dangerous pockets of the country. These centers offer basic primary health care and timely attention to trauma victims.
The idea is to offer a prompt and proper assessment for traumatized patients and transfer the people from the clinic to the hospital with ambulance and nurse on board.
With more than a dozen trauma patients on average admitted daily, the hospital has a remarkable survival rate. Emergency is able to save roughly 9 out of 10 of those admitted to the hospital, on par if not above the average of standard general hospitals. Italian nurse Giorgia Novello believes genes play a big role.
They have much better immune system developed than European people, that's for sure.
Why do you think that is? Is that because they've sort of lived a hard life generation after generation?
Probably. That genetics makes you stronger, to be stronger.
Experience of the staff could also have a lot to do with it.
These doctors are doing an average of 60 operations weekly each. These people are able to treat a traumatized patient injured from the head to the toe. In Italy, you need a team of different specialists, for example, sharing the responsibility of what they do. They just work continuously.
It's big.
Emergency saw a 30% increase in patients and operations in the first quarter of 2016 from the same period in 2015. 4 surgeons and 5 nurses care for over 120 beds. For the Afghan staff, watching their country deteriorate and their children die is proving an even greater challenge.
It's very disastrous. When we are going to see these kind of patients, it's not one day, it's not 2 days, it's not 1 week, it's not 1 month. Since 2008, I became a surgeon. Since 2003, I was starting work in this hospital, and I have seen this kind of patients are coming and going,
It's family day. Some patients are wheeled outside to enjoy the sun with visiting family and friends. But 9-year-old Ahmadullah spends the day inside, alone. His family hasn't yet been able to make the 3-hour journey from Ghazni to Kabul. Afghanistan's poor infrastructure makes it difficult for relatives to be by their loved one's bedside.
How crucial is time to an injury?
A lot. It's called golden hour in the trauma. Here it's called a golden day, because sometimes they're coming after 2 days, 20 hours, 15 hours, so you lose a lot.
Ahmadullah arrived 7 hours after his injury, increasing his odds of survival. The team at Emergency covered the hole in his skull with a skin graft from his thigh.
So we have a good results. So that means our team, our surgical team in Emergency, they did a really good job, and they saved his life of this child.
Doctors expect him to make a full recovery. The Afghan Public Health Ministry estimates that there are now over 2,000 health facilities across the country, compared with about 500 in 2002, but their quality is in question.
Afghanistan really needs this kind of hospital, several hospitals. Unfortunately, the situations of other governmental hospitals day by day becoming down. It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
Emergency is also helping train a new generation of healthcare specialists from all over Afghanistan, but because of worsening insecurity in the country, many are taking this knowledge abroad.
The last 5 years of our experience here are the worst that we ever had in Afghanistan in terms of admission. We are talking about a period that should be the end of the war, and I feel very sad and sorry.
Yet some are staying, hopeful that they can make a difference in the future of their country, regardless of the odds stacked against them.
So I don't know, the God put me here from the beginning, and I don't know when it's going to be remove me from this part. Actually.
For Simon Asia, I'm Natalie Carney in Kabul, Afghanistan.
In response to growing demand, Emergency Hospital is looking to expand to more provinces across Afghanistan. It also has operations in conflict-stricken countries like Sudan. Up next, making Cambodia safe from unexploded ordnance that lies underwater. A bombing campaign by the US during the Vietnam War made the Mekong River dangerous waters. To this day, explosives can still be found underwater, posing a risk to people living near the river in Cambodia. But as Mikhail Bardavid reports from Phnom Penh, a group of divers is undertaking the hazardous task of ridding the river of bombs.
The mighty Mekong, a river that runs through several countries from southern China to Vietnam, providing food, transportation, and livelihood to millions of people. Yet these waters have also seen conflict. In 1965, at the height of the Vietnam War, then Cambodian head of state Prince Norodom Sihanouk allowed communist guerrillas from North Vietnam to set up camp within its borders, prompting a bombing campaign by the US on Cambodian soil. The bombs fell not only on land, but also within rivers surrounding populated areas, resulting in waters full of live ammunition. Battles and conflicts like these transformed the Mekong River into dangerous territory. While a Japanese firm was building a bridge in 2012, machinery triggered a bomb in the river, postponing the project. Cambodia found itself in need of trained deminers that could work underwater, on a mission to recover and defuse ammunition. For the Cambodian Mining Action Center, or CMAC, demining underwater was a completely different ballgame. They requested support from the US government, which led to cooperation with the Golden West Humanitarian Foundation.
You had illegal scrap collecting operations coming in, finding these boats, and starting to recover them and the ordnance on the boats to sell for scrap metal. And so all of those things pose a big public safety risk, and that's aside from the regional security risk that exists from having lots of high-grade, military-grade, really, explosives floating around on the black market in a way that nobody even knows they're missing, completely unaccountable. So this is a big problem.
CMAC and Golden West created a unique local diving team from scratch. But motivation is not enough. For those who completed the training, the job description was challenging, to say the least. There's no room for mistakes. One wrong move could be fatal, not only for the diver, but also for residents near the river. Of the 40 people who applied, 20 were sent home after the first 2 weeks of training.
I would add that on day one, nobody was a competent swimmer. None of the 40 that came to us could make it across the swimming pool in any real way.
Then came months of physical fitness training, followed by a diving and scuba course which brought them to the main exercise.
This pool is where they practice demining in a controlled environment before they go out to sea or into the river. During the training, divers wear blackout masks to simulate the conditions in the river where there's little or no visibility.
American diver and training leader Mike Nisi says not everyone is cut out for this job.
It does take a certain type of individual psychologically to do this, and that's why the initial training is so stressful and rigorous. Just even, from the swim training, push-up training, run training, then dive training, that's why we're not easy on them, because we have to see if they're going to break mentally.
Scary, but now not scary. យើងធ្វើអ្វីក៏ដោយឲ្យតែយើងធ្វើតាមការណែនាំពីខាងលើទៅយើងអត់មានអារម្មណ៍ថាខ្លាចទេ
For Sok Chanda, the Cambodian team leader, the challenge is in diving into the river.
បើយើងធ្វើការនៅក្នុងទឹកសមុទ្រអាចមើលឃើញវាអត់បញ្ហាតែបើសិនជាធ្វើការនៅក្នុងទឹកទន្លេទឹកល្អក់យើងអាចមើលឃើញយើងប្រើអារម្មណ៍សុទ្ធសាធអញ្ចឹងវាបញ្ហាគ្រោះថ្នាក់ខ្លាំងជាងដែលយើងធ្វើនៅលើគោកវាពិតជាគ្រោះថ្នាក់ខ្លាំងគឺខ្ញុំអាចមើលគឺខ្ញុំអាចប្រើអារម្មណ៍បានគឺអត់មានអារម្មណ៍ខ្លាចអីទាំងអស់គឺយើងអាចប្រើអារម្មណ៍ក៏ប៉ុន្តែយើងចាំបាច់ត្រូវរៀនជំនាញផ្នែកគ្រាប់មួយទៀតយើងត្រូវធ្វើការ identify ទៅលើគ្រាប់មួយទៀត
You know, you enter the water and then you're just expecting, okay, I'm going to first see the color green near the surface and then it's going to turn to black and then I'm going to get on the bottom and that's when I'm going to calm my breathing down and then I'm going to start conducting my search or whatever your job is.
The job does not end with finding and recovering bombs underwater.
Once we find them, we bring them to the surface. We find out the conditions, so if it's been fired, if it hasn't been fired, if the fuse is safe, and then we'll actually cut the bomb or the piece of ordnance we're dealing with into pieces.
The Mekong River remains filled with unexploded ordnance. Nobody really knows how many there are. One of the biggest challenges for the team is locating them underwater, so they rely on the local population to alert them of any suspicious findings.
The team recovered its first bomb thanks to a fisherman who alerted them after his net caught an unfamiliar object.
Đi theo đường nước rồi đó, thì người ta biết cái chỗ mà bên Sima đó, thì bom đạn thì lấy lên đựng cho nhân dân này kia cái nọ đó, đừng có cho mà ngày sau đụng tới cái trái đó rồi nó nổ ảnh hưởng cho nhân dân đó. Đó thì mình cũng nhờ bên nhà nước đó, lấy cái trái đó lên, đó lấy lên đựng cho nhân dân này kia, ngày sau nó không có tai nạn xảy ra cái vụ mà bom đạn nổ. Mình đi lấy trái này về rồi mình cũng nói với anh em ta người nào mà ngày sau mà cũng như mà thấy cái trái bom này đó thì cũng như có số điện của bên miếng gạt của bên Sima đó thì mình cũng điện lên cho bên Sima người ta xuống lấy cái bom đạn nó cho ngày sau.
Took us almost 4 years to change the attitude of the public, especially the communities that are affected by landmine and UXO, to ensure that they also own the problem, not just this organization own the problem or state own the problem. So we work along with local authority. We married well with the local security forces as well as the police, especially the police. We provide a certain training to police as well, how we can work together.
There are still countless bombs lying at the bottom of Cambodian waters, and it could be impossible to locate and recover them all.
For us, it's not about clearing the river of ordnance. It's about giving or working with the nation to give them the ability to protect their population when a threat presents itself.
Although Cambodia may never be completely free of UXOs, the diving team is determined to make the country at least a step closer to being safe. For Assignment Asia, Michal Bardavid in Phnom Penh, Cambodia.
Golden West is seeking funds to sustain its training program for deminers in Cambodia. The group aims to make the country's own divers capable of performing operations without outside help. You can learn more about this and all the stories on today's program on our website, www.assignment-asia.com. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Martin Lowe. Thanks for watching, and join us again on Assignment Asia. Share your thoughts and contribute story ideas for future shows by contacting us on social media.